right, so yesterday we focused on completing the square. Your homework assignment was to complete the square by finding that missing C. So as part of the warm-up right now, go ahead and complete the square by finding C. So C is always equal to B divided by 2 squared. So in this case, it is 8 squared, which is 64. So the completed square is x squared plus 16x plus 64, which we know factors as x plus 8 squared. And all of that is the goal of what we are looking at for today. To find C in example number 2, we're going to take the 14 divided by 2 and square it to get 49. And that makes your equation x squared minus 14x plus 49, which is x minus 7 squared. Yes. On which one? Okay, so if yours is a plus, then it would be a plus 7 in there. Sorry about that. Okay. So our goal again for today is to complete the square, but now we are going to solve by completing the square, and some of our answers may have complex numbers. So that's why before we learn lesson 5.5, we also learn lesson 5.4. So we're going to complete the square today to see if we get real or non-real solutions. So in example number 1, the first thing we have to do in order to complete the square is to make sure the value on A is 1. So before we can even start completing the square, we have to divide every term by 2. So that my A value is 1. So we have x squared minus 7 halves x plus 5 halves equals 0. And then we're going to move over the 5 halves so that we can complete the square. So we're going to find the value of C that would complete our square. So that would be like 7 halves divided by 2. So that's really like multiplying 7 halves times 1 half. So that really becomes 7/4 squared, or 49 over 16. So then what we do is we add 49 over 16. And if you add it to the left, you have to also add it to the right. So it's kind of like adding or subtracting 0. If I add it to the left, it's the same as subtracting it from the left by adding it to the right. So I know that the left side is going to factor as x minus, because the sign after the x squared is a negative, it's b divided by 2, which we said was 7/4. So the left side is going to be x minus 7/4 squared, because that's what we get when we make a perfect square. I have to combine the terms on the right side. So in order to add 49/16 and -5/2, I need them to have a common denominator, which means I need to multiply 5/2 by 8/8, making that -40/16. So -40/16 plus 49/16 gives me 9/16. And now we're at a point where it's like solving a square root. We're going to take the square root of both sides. And you have to remember that when you take the square root of a non-squared side, we add our plus or minus. So that gives x minus 7/4, because the square root and the square cancel, equals plus or minus the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 16 is 4. So you get plus or minus 3/4. Your final answers come from taking each part and solving for x. So what that means is you are going to take x minus 7/4 and set it equal to positive 3/4. And you're going to take x minus 7/4 and set it equal to negative 3/4. And then you are going to combine like terms. So we're going to add 7/4 to both sides. So by adding 7/4 to both sides, you get x equals 10/4. And we get x equals, sorry, I realized I didn't throw my folder under the door. Okay, so you have 10/4 on the left. Adding 7/4 over to the right gives you 4/4. And then that gives you x equals 1. You could reduce 10/4 also if you would like, or you can leave it as 10/4. So again, either or, both are fine. Okay. So example number 2, again, all of those same questions. We want to take our 8 divided by 2 so that we can solve for our C value. We're going to move over the 22. So we have lots of things we have to do to start this problem. So you move your 22 to start. You have x squared plus 8x. We're going to fill in our C. So we take that value and we solve it by taking 8 divided by 2 and squaring it. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So that means we're adding 16 to both sides. And then we're going to complete the square on the left. So that gives x plus 4 squared equals, and 16 minus 22 is a negative 6. So again, at the very beginning, I said we could have complex or i's. So we are going to have an I for this problem here because we have an equal on a squared to a negative, and we know that a squared can't be equal to a negative in the real number system. So that tells me that my answer is going to be complex. So I take the square root of both sides, and the same concept occurs if you take the square root of a number that is plus or minus. So we have the square root of this negative number over here, and we are going to simplify it the same way we've been simplifying. We have x plus 4 equals plus or minus. You bring out the negative as an I. Square root 6. 6 is only made up of 2 times 3, so it cannot be simplified. We like to solve for x though, so we subtract x to the other side. We typically do real plus imaginary, so you're going to put the 4 in front. So it's x equals negative 4 plus or minus I square roots of 6, which give 2 non-real solutions, because that's really like x equals negative 4 plus I square roots of 6, or x equals negative 4 minus I square roots of 6. You are perfectly allowed to leave it written just like this. I'm only showing you the line below so that you understand that there are 2 solutions, and that's what you get by putting the plus or minus. So similarly, we know that a can have a value of anything other than 1. So the first thing we're going to do is to get rid of that 3. So we're going to divide everything by 3. And then we're going to move the number to the other side and find my C value that will complete my square. So we get 100 over 36, but we know that that divides by 4. You also could have, if you were back here, we could have simplified inside our parentheses. So you could have said 10 divided by 2 is 5, and you could have squared it as 5/3 as well. So if you didn't see that and you did 100 over 36, then you know both divide by 4. Or you could simplify the 10 halves and get 5. And either way, we get a final C value in simplified form of 25 ninths. So the other reason it helps to simplify is because when you have your 5/3, that's also going to be what your fraction is when we factor this. So we're going to add add that 25/9 to the left and to the right. Then we're going to put it in factored form. So you have x, it's plus because it starts as a plus, 5/3 squared equals, and 8/3 is really the same as 24/9. So 25 plus 24 is 49/9. So we have x plus 5/3 squared equals 49/9. We take the square root of both sides. And we get x plus 5/3 equals plus or minus 7/3. So you get x equals 7/3 minus 5/3. And x equals negative 7/3 minus 5/3. Or x equals 2/3. And x equals negative 12/3. Which is negative 4. Okay? And we have x squared plus 2x plus 2. So a value is 1. We're going to move over that negative 2. So we have a x squared plus 2x plus blank equals negative 2. We're going to find our c. So we get 2 over 2, or 1. 1 squared is 1. So we add 1 to both sides. So we get x plus 1 squared equals negative 1. So once again, we're going to come out with a complex root. So we square root both sides. And I get x plus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of negative 1, which is I. Because even if you brought out the negative and you forgot, that would have left you with plus or minus I square roots of 1. But the square root of 1 is 1. So therefore it's just I. So we get x equals negative 1 plus or minus I. And that is how you solve by completing the square. So everything we just did was solving by completing the square. Any questions on any of those examples? Kind of how I did something, where it came from? Okay, then your homework is the next 2 pages in your packet. You're doing the front and the back of the solving by completing the square handout.
Ike, did you not send Chase to school? Are you sure? I'm pretty sure my husband didn't put my son on the bus. I just got an alert. Go clear that us. Don't hang in my basement of your dog. Hi. 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 I'm pretty sure you didn't send Chase to school. Did Chase not go to school? Because I don't know. What? I've called you 6 times. I got an alert. Chase is not in first period. So, is he still in his bed asleep? Or did something happen between the bus and school? Well, thanks for finally answering the real thing. Okay, well, I got an alert. Chase is on period 1. So did you not wake him up and send him to school? Because there's no ring doorbell motion either. No, I said, I'm leaving. Wake up, Chase. I told you to do that when I was leaving. Yeah, so you didn't send our kid to school. He's up in bed, sleeping. I'll call my mom. Goodbye. Exactly the truth. He needs a ride to the high school. Hopefully before period 2. Bye.
Anybody need help? Any questions, comments, concerns, issues? I know it's just kind of a lot of writing and a lot of working through the problems.